Thank you so much, Cheryl. DACA remains. The Supreme Court ruling that the Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, protecting so-called dreamers who were brought to the United States as minors from being deported, was improperly ended by the Trump administration. Chief Justice John Roberts pointed to the White House's procedure for the decision, writing for the 5-4 majority, writing this, quote, "The dispute before the court is not whether DHS may rescind DACA. All parties agree that it may. The dispute is instead primarily about the procedure the agency followed in doing so." Joining me now is Florida Congressman, member of the House Judiciary and Oversight and Reform Committees, Greg Steube. Congressman, good to see you. Now what?
Good to see you.
Now what for the Republicans?
Well, what's interesting is this is a program that was created by executive order by the Obama administration. Congress didn't create this program. Obama created this program. So for the court to say legally that a president can create a program by executive order, but a next president can't disable that program by executive order, to me, it flies in the face of the law, flies in the face of common sense. And to say that they don't have an appropriate reason. In his ruling, he says all of us agree that he can get rid of it. He just didn't give, the agency didn't give an appropriate reason as to why. And I understand, I'm upset, and I understand why all conservatives in the country are upset right now.
Ultimately, this is an issue for Congress, is it not? So when the Republicans held the House in the first 2 years of President Trump's administration and they controlled the Senate, why didn't you do something about it?
This is absolutely something that should be done in Congress. One of the challenges that the House faces, even if we take the majority back, is the 60-vote policy in the Senate. So right now, even though it's a Republican Senate, to get anything passed, they have to go to Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to pick up 70 votes to get to that 60-vote threshold. So it's very difficult to pass pieces of legislation, especially in reforming something as controversial as immigration.
I want to move on to COVID. The coronavirus case is spiking in your home state of Florida. According to the Department of Health, the state saw more than 3,200 new cases of the virus with 86,000 cases total. Do you think it's safe to continue reopening in Florida, Congressman?
I absolutely think it's safe to continue to reopen. You're seeing a spike in cases because you're seeing 200,000 people in Florida a week being tested, which is more than double the amount of people that were being tested a month ago. You know, the left-wing media, when all of this started, were criticizing Governor DeSantis and hailing Governor Cuomo in New York, despite the fact that we have more people in Florida, way less cases in Florida, way less deaths in Florida, and a more elderly population, a more diverse population. So again, it's just the left-wing media criticizing the decisions of Republican governors. We absolutely need to open up the economy. We can do it, and we can do it safely. The real issue is ICU beds and making sure our hospitals have the capabilities to take care of everyone, and that is absolutely the case in my district here in Florida and in the case in Florida overall.
Brian?
Congressman, you just hit it a second ago. The problem I have with all the reporting on the increase in cases is it often doesn't say anything about how the hospitals are doing. In Florida, that matters. The average age, as I understand it, of new coronavirus cases has gone from 65 to 37. That's a huge difference. And it probably means that hospitals are in better shape, even as the number of infections go up. Is that the case in Florida? Why don't we see that number reported more often?
Well, and to your point, why don't we see the number of people actually recovering from COVID-19 and being released from the hospital? You don't see that number anywhere. In my district, I talked to my emergency management officials in the state of Florida and my hospital CEOs. Nobody has given me any concerns that they don't have enough ICU beds. They don't have enough beds that they can convert into ICU beds. Everybody has plenty of ventilators in Florida. We're prepared here if there is an actual spike that requires people to be hospitalized. But what's frustrating is you're not hearing all the people that are recovering from this virus or that did go into the hospital that are being released.
Before we move on, I just want to point out that, Governor, you mentioned the nursing home problem. Again, that order signed by Governor Cuomo in late March that sent COVID-positive patients back into nursing homes and forbid the nursing homes from testing for the virus. Governor Cuomo said yesterday in an interview that criticism of the nursing home deaths are just a shiny object and pure politics. So when you think his behavior can't be more appalling, when you think that the governor here in New York can't be more loathsome, he surprises us and digs even deeper and goes even lower. Meantime, former Vice President Joe Biden opening a big lead. The latest Fox News poll shows the former vice president leading President Trump by 12 points nationally. The poll also shows that nearly 2/3 of Biden supporters are motivated by fear that the president will win re-election. On that note, it was the reverse that held President Trump back in 2016. More of those backing Trump than Hillary Clinton, 61 to 54%, said fear motivated them. So now it's flipped, Congressman.
Well, in Florida, these are the same polls that had Hillary Clinton beating Trump in Florida by 10 and 15 points. So I don't think the polling is accurate. It hasn't been accurate in the past. All you have to do is look at 2016, right before the presidential election. We're bringing his nomination to our party back here to Florida in Jacksonville because you had a Democratic governor in North Carolina who was refusing to allow us to go up there and congregate for our convention. So I feel good about where we're at in Florida. These 1.8 million Trump voters who didn't come out in the midterm elections will be out in force in this general election in November. And those people aren't being polled because they're not typical voters that vote every election cycle.
Joseph, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. Congressman, I think you hit the nail on the head. Obviously, I think President Trump is gearing up to renew his efforts for re-election, as we see with this rally coming up. My question to you and possibly to the administration is, why aren't we leaning in more as a party to this moment to have, what I've called, Trump's LBJ moment, to pass some type of meaningful landmark legislation that stands the test of time, and really to leave no doubt that the Republican Party can and should lead on this issue, and to take away the arguments that Democrats have erroneously claimed to have ownership of.
We have been. We announced a bill yesterday that addressed a lot of these issues that would solve a lot of these problems you're seeing across the country of officers not being trained up to the standards that they should be trained at, bad cops going from one place to another. There's hundreds of co-sponsors to that bill in the House, over 100 co-sponsors. Tim Scott in the Senate is working on a bill, and they've worked together with Republican leaders, but you're not going to hear the left talk about that because they just want to talk about what they think is going to energize their base and be more offensive.
Congressman, great to see you. Congressman Greg Steube, take care.